The grand hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of alien beings filled the massive space, each one representing their home world. Some looked like giant insects with shining wings. Others appeared as creatures made of water, floating in special tanks. There were beings of pure energy, rock-like giants, and countless other forms of life that humans had only dreamed about in their science fiction stories. Ambassador Daniel Harper stood alone in the center of it all. He was a tall man with short brown hair and calm blue eyes. His black suit looked plain compared to the exotic appearances around him. But he stood straight and showed no fear. Behind him, thousands of alien eyes watched his every move. Above him, holographic screens displayed images of human ships and colonies scattered across dozens of star systems. The supreme arbitrator was a creature called Krell-Thor. He stood 3 times taller than any human, with a body that looked like it was made from dark metal and crystal. His wings caught the light and threw rainbow colors across the chamber. When he spoke, his voice boomed through translation devices that turned his words into every known language. "The Galactic Council has reached its decision," Krell-Thor announced. The hall fell silent. "Humanity has ignored our warnings. You have expanded into restricted space. You have refused to share your military secrets. You have rejected our rightful authority over all species in this galaxy. Therefore, we declare that humanity must submit to Council rule immediately." The alien diplomats erupted in cheers and shouts of approval. Some banged their appendages against their seats. Others released sounds that the translation devices could not even convert into words. They had expected the humans to beg for mercy or try to negotiate. They thought Daniel would fall to his knees and plead for more time. Instead, something strange happened. Daniel Harper smiled. It was not a big smile. It was small and quiet, like someone who just heard a joke that no one else understood yet. But somehow, that small smile made the entire enormous chamber feel smaller. The cheering died down. Alien beings who had lived for centuries felt something they rarely experienced. They felt uncertain. Daniel took one step forward. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. "You have made your decision," he said in a clear, steady voice. "Now let me share ours." He reached into his jacket pocket. Several alien guards moved forward, their weapons ready. But Daniel only pulled out a small crystal device, no bigger than his thumb. He held it up so everyone could see it. "This crystal contains everything," Daniel said. "Every detail about your fleets, every weakness in your defenses, every secret about how your ships work, and where your military bases hide. We have been studying you for 3 years. We hoped we would never need to use this information. Your declaration today means we were wrong to hope." The chamber exploded with angry voices. Some aliens called him a liar. Others demanded to know how humans could have gathered such information. A few of the older, wiser beings said nothing at all. They simply watched Daniel with growing concern. Daniel waited for the noise to settle before he continued. "You see, the Council operates on a basic mistake. You think you are declaring war on us? You are not. You are asking us to teach you what real war looks like. And humans have never been good at refusing a teaching opportunity." He placed the crystal carefully on the podium in front of him. The small device seemed to glow under the chamber lights. "You should know something about humanity," Daniel continued. His voice remained calm, almost friendly, but his words carried weight. "We come from one planet. Just one. For thousands of years, we fought wars on that single world. We fought with sticks and stones, then with swords and spears, then with guns and bombs. We built weapons that could destroy our entire planet, looked at what we had created, and decided we needed to do better." He walked slowly around the podium, making eye contact with different council members as he spoke. "We learned how to fight in deserts and jungles, on oceans and in the air, in the freezing cold and burning heat. We studied strategy and tactics like they were religion. We wrote thousands of books about war. We created schools dedicated to teaching people how to win battles. And we did all of this while fighting each other." Some of the aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They were beginning to understand that something was wrong with their assumptions about humanity. Then we reached the stars, Daniel said. We brought all that knowledge with us. Every lesson learned from 10,000 years of conflict. Every trick and tactic. Every strategy that worked, and every mistake that taught us to do better. You looked at us and saw a young species that had only been in space for a few centuries. We looked at you and saw opponents who had forgotten what it means to truly fight. He stopped walking and faced the Supreme Arbitrator directly. You have 72 hours to reconsider your declaration. Use that time to think carefully. After those 72 hours pass, we will show you exactly what humanity means when we talk about war. And I promise you, it will be educational. Krell Thor's crystalline wings flared with anger. You dare threaten this council? We have thousands of ships. Millions of soldiers. We have conquered 17 civilizations. What do you have? Daniel's smile grew just a bit wider. We have 300 years of space experience and 10,000 years of war experience. We have people who grew up reading about strategy before they could walk. We have technology you have not seen because we did not want to scare you. Most importantly, we have something you lost a long time ago. And what is that? Krell Thor demanded. The understanding that the biggest fleet does not always win, Daniel replied. The smartest fleet wins. The most creative fleet wins. The fleet that can adapt and change faster than the enemy can react wins. You have numbers. We have knowledge. Let me ask you something. Arbitrator, in all your centuries of conquest, when was the last time you faced an opponent who actually wanted to fight you, who spent their entire existence preparing for war, who looked at your threats and smiled? The chamber had gone completely quiet again. Every being present understood that something important was happening. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting, and it was happening right in front of them. Daniel picked up the crystal and held it one more time. This information goes to every human ship in 72 hours. After that, your fleets will face an enemy unlike anything you have encountered before. Not because we are stronger or bigger, but because we understand something you forgot. War is not about size. It is about will, intelligence, and the refusal to surrender. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UHSF Valkyrie and looked at the glowing map of space in front of him. The map showed hundreds of star systems, each one marked with different colors. Red marks showed where the Council had their military bases. Blue marks showed where human ships waited in hiding. Green marks showed neutral zones where neither side had claimed territory yet. Jake was a man in his 50s with gray hair at his temples and sharp green eyes that missed nothing. He had spent 30 years in the Space Force, working his way up from a simple pilot to the commander of humanity's entire fleet. He had seen peace and he had seen conflict. Right now, he was preparing for the biggest conflict in human history. Status report, Jake said. His voice was steady and calm, the way it always was before a battle. Commander Lisa Bennett looked up from her station. She was a woman with red hair tied back in a tight bun and quick fingers that danced across her control panel. All fleet elements are in position, sir. We have ships hiding in 70 different locations. The Council has not detected any of them yet. Their sensors are old technology, said Lieutenant Brandon Cole from the weapons station. He was young, maybe 25, with dark skin and bright eyes full of confidence. They still use the same scanning methods they developed 500 years ago. Our stealth systems are based on theories they have not even discovered yet. Jake nodded slowly. The Council had grown comfortable over the centuries. They had become the biggest power in the galaxy. And they stopped innovating. They stopped asking questions like, how can we do this better? And started asking questions like, how can we maintain what we have? That was their first mistake. Humanity's first and only advantage was that they never stopped asking how to improve. What about the Phantom Squadron? Jake asked. Lisa checked her screens. Captain Melissa Grant reports, all 27 carriers are ready. Each carrier holds 50 fighters. That gives us 1,350 attack craft, all equipped with the new jump drives. E.T., Jake allowed himself a small smile. The jump drives were humanity's secret weapon. Most species used large ships to travel faster than light. It took enormous engines and massive amounts of power. Humans had figured out how to make the drives small enough to fit on a single-person fighter. The Council did not even know it was possible. "Sir," Brandon spoke up. "Some of the crew are nervous. They are asking if we are really going to fight the entire Galactic Council. That is 47 different species with thousands of ships." Jake turned to look at his weapons officer. "Brandon, tell me something. What is the most important lesson from Earth's military history?" The young lieutenant thought for a moment. "Numbers do not always win, sir. Strategy and surprise win." "Exactly right," Jake said. "The Council has numbers. They have tradition. They have experience conquering species that were weaker or less organized than them. But they have never fought someone like us. They have never fought a species that spent thousands of years fighting itself and learning from every single battle." He pointed to the map. "Look at their formation. They are gathering all their ships in one location. The nexus point. It is their standard strategy. Bring overwhelming force, scare the enemy into surrender, and if that does not work, crush them with superior numbers. It has worked for them 17 times, Lisa noted. 18 times if you count the minor conflicts, Jake agreed. But it only works against opponents who fight the same way they do. Traditional fleet tactics. Ships lined up in formation. Direct confrontation. The Council expects us to meet them with our own fleet in a similar formation. They expect a battle where the bigger fleet wins." Brandon's eyes lit up with understanding. "But we are not going to do that." "No, we are not," Jake confirmed. "We are going to teach them the first rule of human warfare. Never fight the battle your enemy wants. Always fight the battle you can win." A communication signal came through. Lisa answered it and then looked at Jake. "Sir, Ambassador Harper is on the line from the Council station. He is requesting an update." "Put him through," Jake said. Daniel Harper's face appeared on the main screen. He looked tired but alert. Behind him, the interior of a human transport ship was visible. "Admiral, I just left the Council chamber. They rejected the 72-hour offer." Krelthor called it a bluff. "They think we are not serious?" Jake asked. "They think we are desperate," Daniel replied. "They see one human standing alone against thousands of aliens, and they interpret our confidence as fear pretending to be brave." Jake nodded. "Then we proceed as planned. How much time until you are clear of Council space?" "My ship will reach the border in 6 hours, Daniel said. "After that, I am out of their reach." "Good. Stay safe, Ambassador. We will handle things from here." The screen went dark. Jake turned back to his crew. "All right, everyone. The Council has made their choice. We gave them a chance to reconsider. They thought we were bluffing. Now we show them that humans do not bluff. We demonstrate." He walked to the center of the bridge where the holographic map floated. "Lisa, send the signal to all fleet commanders. Operation Nightfall begins in 48 hours. I want every ship in position, every pilot ready, every weapon system checked and double-checked." "Yes, sir," Lisa said, her fingers already moving across her controls. Jake looked at Brandon. "And send a message to the Cyber Warfare Division. Tell them it is time to wake up the ghost programs." Brandon grinned. "They are going to love this." "Sir, what are ghost programs?" asked a new ensign who had just rotated onto bridge duty. Jake explained patiently. "The Council ships all use computer systems that are hundreds of years old. Very stable, very reliable, very predictable. 3 years ago, we sent deep space probes disguised as asteroids into Council space. Those probes studied their computer networks and planted dormant programs. Programs that are invisible until we activate them." The ensign's eyes went wide. "Programs that do what, sir?" "Programs that will shut down every Council ship at exactly the right moment," Jake said. "Just long enough for our fighters to strike. The Council thinks technology is about having the biggest ships and the most powerful weapons. We know technology is about being smarter than your opponent. Lisa finished sending the fleet-wide signal and turned to Jake. Sir, all commanders report ready. We have 250 capital ships, 1,350 fighters, and full crew complements across the board. Everyone is asking the same question, though. What question? Jake asked. Can we really win this? Jake was quiet for a moment. He looked at the map, at the red marks showing council strength and the blue marks showing human positions. On paper, it looked impossible. The council outnumbered them 12-1. They had bigger ships, more resources, and centuries of military experience. But numbers on paper did not tell the whole story. Let me tell you what I know, Jake said, speaking to everyone on the bridge. I know that humanity has survived ice ages and plagues. We have survived world wars and natural disasters. We have looked extinction in the face more than once, and we always found a way to keep going. That is what we do. We survive. We adapt. We overcome. He pointed to the map. The council sees numbers. We see targets. They see overwhelming force. We see predictable patterns. They see a young species that should be afraid. We see opponents who have forgotten what real war looks like. His voice grew stronger. Every person on every human ship knows something the council does not. We know that our families are counting on us. Our children are counting on us. Earth is counting on us. And we do not lose when the stakes are that high. We cannot afford to. Brandon spoke up. My grandfather fought in the Mars Rebellion. He told me that the key to winning is not being fearless. It is being more afraid of losing than you are of fighting. Smart man, your grandfather, Jake said. And he was right. We are not fearless. We are terrified. But we are more terrified of what happens if we surrender than we are of fighting the entire council. A new message appeared on Lisa's screen. Sir, President Stewart is requesting a direct line. On screen, Jake ordered. The president appeared. She was a woman in her 60s with gray hair and eyes that had seen both peace and crisis. Admiral Morrison, the Joint Chiefs and I have reviewed your battle plan. It is bold. Some might even call it crazy. Yes, ma'am, Jake said. But it is also brilliant, the president continued. You have my full authorization to proceed. Show the council what happens when they threaten humanity. Show them why we do not surrender. But Admiral, one more thing. Ma'am? Bring our people home safe, President Stewart said. Every single one of them. Win the battle. But do not sacrifice our people to do it. That is an order. Understood, ma'am. We will win. And we will all come home. Ma'am. The screen went dark again. Jake looked around his bridge at the crew. These men and women would execute the plan perfectly. He had no doubt about that. They were trained, skilled, and motivated. They represented the best that humanity had to offer. 48 hours, Jake said quietly. In 48 hours, the galaxy changes. The council has ruled through fear and force for 1,000 years. They think that is the only way. We are about to teach them different. Lisa stood up from her station. Sir, permission to speak freely? Always. Do you think they can learn? The council, I mean. Do you think they can understand what we are about to show them? Jake considered the question. I think they will learn. They may not like the lesson, but the nexus point was a region of space where 3 major trade routes crossed. It was the perfect location for the council to demonstrate their power. 3,000 warships gathered there, creating a display of force so massive that it could be seen on sensors from 3 star systems away. Fleet Commander Zephril stood at the command center of his flagship, the Eternal Justice. He was a reptilian being, tall and covered in dark green scales. His species had been warriors for millions of years. He had personally commanded fleets in 12 different campaigns and never lost a single battle. Today would be his 13th victory. Status of the human fleet? Zephril asked his tactical officer. No sign of them. Commander, came the reply. Our long-range sensors detect nothing. They are either hiding very far away, or they have not assembled their forces yet. Zephril nodded with satisfaction. They are afraid. As they should be. Look at what we have assembled. He gestured at the displays, showing the massive Council armada, ships from 47 different species, all united under Council command. The humans have maybe 300 ships total. They see our strength and they hide. His second officer, a floating creature made of gas and energy, spoke carefully. Commander, what if the human ambassador was telling the truth? What if they have capabilities we do not know about? Impossible, Zephril said firmly. We have monitored humanity for decades. We know their technology. We know their ships. They are children playing at being adults. This show of force will make them surrender without us firing a single shot. He ordered the fleet to begin advancing toward human space. 3,000 ships began moving in perfect formation. A wall of metal and weapons that stretched across millions of kilometers. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. That is when everything went dark. Every single Council ship lost power at the exact same moment. Lights went out. Engines shut down. Weapons systems went offline. Shields collapsed. Emergency alarms blared in 3,000 different languages as backup systems tried to activate. In those few seconds of darkness and confusion, humanity struck. Captain Ryan Torres sat in the cockpit of his fighter, the Razor. He was a young pilot with dark hair and quick reflexes. He had trained for this moment for 5 years, running simulations over and over until he could fly his ship with his eyes closed. Now all that training would be put to the test. Phoenix Squadron, this is Razor 1, Ryan said into his communication system. Target the flagship, fast and clean. We get one shot at this. Copy that, Razor 1, came the replies from his 11 squadron mates. Ryan's fighter had been hanging in space less than 5 kilometers from the Eternal Justice, completely invisible to Council sensors thanks to the quantum stealth system. The Council ships could not see him even though he was close enough to count their windows. When the power went out on the Council ships, Ryan activated his engines. The fighter came to life, responding to his touch like a living thing. Around him, 11 more fighters did the same, all emerging from stealth at the exact same moment. Weapons free, Ryan said. His fingers moved across the controls with practiced ease. The targeting computer locked onto the exposed bridge of the Eternal Justice. Without shields, the massive ship was completely vulnerable. Ryan fired. 6 missiles streaked from his fighter toward the flagship. Each missile was small, no bigger than a person. But each one carried kinetic warheads that hit with the force of a meteor. They punched through the unshielded hull like paper, tearing into the command center of the Council's most powerful ship. Then Ryan was already moving, his fighter spinning away as explosions rippled across the flagship's surface. His job was not to destroy the ship completely, just to cripple it, make sure it could not command the fleet, take away the Council's coordination. All around the nexus point, the same scene repeated. Human fighters appeared from nowhere, struck with deadly accuracy, and vanished back into stealth before the Council ships could react. The power outage lasted only 90 seconds. But in that time, the Council fleet was shattered. 12 dreadnoughts were crippled, their command bridges destroyed. 47 cruisers were venting atmosphere. Over 200 smaller ships had taken critical damage, and not a single human fighter had been hit. On the bridge of the Valkyrie, Admiral Jake Morrison watched the tactical display with calm satisfaction. All fighters returned to carriers. Excellent work. Commander Lisa Bennett stared at the display in amazement. Sir, we just hit 3,000 ships with 300 fighters, and we suffered 0 casualties. The Council fleet is in complete chaos. That was just the opening move, Jake said. Now we show them what happens when they regroup. The Council ships, their power restored, tried desperately to form defensive positions. Commander Zephril, bleeding from a cut on his head but still alive, shouted orders to his surviving officers. Find those fighters, get our shields up, return fire. But there was nothing to return fire at. The human fighters had vanished as quickly as they appeared. The Council sensors could not track them, could not find them. It was like fighting ghosts. Commander, we are detecting new contacts, the tactical officer said, his voice shaking. Multiple capital ships appearing at maximum weapons range. Zephrol looked at the display and felt something he had not experienced in his long military career. He felt fear. The human fleet had appeared in a perfect sphere around the Council Armada. 250 ships, each one smaller than a Council dreadnought but somehow more dangerous. They did not look like the bulky, heavily armored vessels the Council used. They looked sleek and fast, like predators rather than tanks, and every single one of them had their weapons pointed at the Council fleet. Jake Morrison opened a transmission to the Council fleet. His face appeared on every Council ship's main screen. Council fleet. This is Admiral Morrison of the United Human Space Forces. You came here to scare us with your numbers. Let me explain something about humanity. We do not fear numbers. We fear incompetence. And right now, you are demonstrating plenty of that. He gestured to the tactical display behind him. You gathered your entire fleet in one location. You used the same formation you have used for centuries. You assumed we would fight the same way you do. Those assumptions just cost you 1/3 of your combat effectiveness, and we have not even started the real battle yet. Zephrol tried to respond, but Jake cut him off. I am not done. You see, humans spent thousands of years studying warfare. We know that the biggest army does not always win. The smartest army wins. The army that can adapt wins. The army that understands their enemy wins. You do not understand us at all. But we understand you. Perfectly. We understand you. Jake nodded to Lisa. Fire. The human ships opened fire with weapons the Council had never seen before. Railguns accelerated metal slugs to near light speed, hitting with devastating kinetic force. Plasma torpedoes moved like living creatures, dodging the Council's defensive fire and finding weak points in their armor. Laser batteries cut through Council shields like they were made of paper, but the most terrifying thing was the precision. Human weapons did not waste shots. Every round hit exactly where it was intended. Engine rooms, weapons systems, shield generators. The human ships were not trying to destroy the Council fleet. They were systematically taking it apart piece by piece. Captain Ryan Torres, safely back on his carrier, watched the main battle on the tactical display. His wingman, Lieutenant Stephanie Morgan, stood next to him. She was a young woman with blonde hair and steady hands that never shook, even in combat. You know what is scary, Stephanie said. We are holding back. These are not even our best weapons. Ryan nodded. The Admiral wants to send a message. If we used everything we have, there would not be a Council fleet left. This way, they survived to learn the lesson. The battle lasted 2 hours. When it was over, the Council fleet was shattered. Not destroyed, but completely unable to fight. Every ship had taken damage to critical systems. Their formations were broken. Their command structure was in chaos, and they had not managed to destroy a single human vessel. 0 human casualties. Admiral Morrison opened another transmission to what was left of the Council fleet. Fleet Commander Zephrol, can you hear me? The reptilian commander appeared on screen. His scales were scorched, his uniform torn, but he was alive. I hear you, he said quietly. Good, Jake said. I want you to deliver a message to your Council. Tell them what happened here today. Tell them that humanity engaged your entire combined fleet with a force 1/8 your size and defeated you without losing a single ship. Tell them that we could have killed every single one of you but chose not to. Tell them that we do not want war, we want respect. He leaned forward. And tell them that this was lesson 1. We have prepared 999 more lessons, each one harder than the last. If they want us to continue teaching, we will, but I think it would be better for everyone if they learned from this first lesson instead. Zephrol said nothing. What could he say? His fleet, the most powerful military force ever assembled, had been beaten by a smaller force in less than 3 hours. Everything he knew about warfare had been proven wrong. You have 48 hours to evacuate your wounded and repair your ships enough to limp home, Jake continued. After that, if you are still in this region of space, we will assume you want lesson 2. I do not recommend it. The transmission ended. On the Valkyrie's bridge, the crew allowed themselves a moment of celebration. They had done the impossible. They had faced the galaxy's greatest military power and won, but Jake did not celebrate. He knew this was just the beginning. The Council would not accept defeat easily. There would be more battles, more tests, more lessons to teach. Lisa approached him quietly. "Sir, do you think they learned anything?" Jake looked at the tactical display showing the crippled Council ships limping away from the battlefield. "They learned that they can be beaten. Whether they learn humility from that remains to be seen, but we made our point. Humanity will not be pushed around. Not by them, not by anyone." Brandon Cole spoke up from his station. "Sir, we are receiving messages from Council worlds. Not official ones. Personal messages from individual aliens. They are asking how we did it, how we won." "What should we tell them?" Lisa asked. Jake thought about it. "Tell them the truth. Tell them that humans have spent our entire history fighting and learning from our mistakes. Tell them that we studied every battle, every war, every conflict, and we learned. We learned that technology alone does not win wars. Strategy wins wars. Intelligence wins wars. The willingness to do whatever it takes to protect what you love wins wars." He turned to face his crew. "And tell them that humanity loves freedom more than we fear death. That is why we won. That is why we will always win." As the human fleet began the journey back to friendly space, the news of the Battle of Nex, the emergency meeting of the Galactic Council, looked nothing like the confident gathering that had declared war on humanity just 1 week earlier. The Grand Chamber was filled with the same thousands of alien beings. But now their voices were quiet and uncertain. Many seats sat empty, their occupants still recovering from injuries sustained at the Battle of Nexus Point. Supreme Arbitrator Krelthor stood at the center podium, his crystalline wings dim and drooping. He looked older somehow, as if the defeat had aged him. The holographic display behind him showed tactical analysis of the battle, playing the same devastating images over and over. Human fighters appearing from nothing, Council ships going dark, the systematic dismantling of their fleet. "We have lost more than ships," Krelthor said, his voice heavy. "We have lost our certainty. For 1,000 years, the Council has maintained peace through strength. We believed that our combined might made us invincible. In less than 3 hours, humanity proved us wrong." Councillor Venrak, floating in his water-filled chamber, spoke carefully. "How is this possible? Our intelligence reports said humanity was technologically inferior. They have only been in space for less than 300 years. How can they possess weapons and tactics so far beyond ours?" "Because we were looking at the wrong things," said Councillor Thexal, the avian diplomat. Her feathers were ruffled with agitation. "We counted their ships and measured their weapons. We never asked about their history. We never studied how they think." The chamber doors opened, and Ambassador Daniel Harper entered. He had been recalled to the Council by emergency decree. Unlike his last appearance, where he had stood alone and confident, this time he was accompanied by 2 human Marines in full combat armor. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer asking for permission to be heard. Daniel walked to the podium slowly, his expression serious. The smile that had unsettled the Council before was gone, replaced by something sadder, almost disappointed. "You wanted to understand how," Daniel said quietly. "How one species that seems so young and divided could defeat your combined might. So let me explain." He activated his own holographic display. Images appeared showing Earth's history. Armies clashing with swords. Navies battling on oceans. Aircraft fighting in the skies. Missiles launching from silos. "Humanity has been fighting wars for our entire existence," Daniel began. "Not just small conflicts. Real wars. Wars that killed millions. Wars that destroyed entire civilizations. We created weapons that could end all life on our planet, and we came very close to using them several times." The alien beings watched in horrified fascination as the images showed mushroom clouds, burning cities, and devastation on scales they could barely comprehend. "We fought 2 world wars in less than 50 years, Daniel continued. Over 100 million humans died in those conflicts. We learned how to fight in every environment: deserts, jungles, mountains, oceans, cities, and frozen wastelands. We developed tactics for every situation. We wrote thousands of books studying warfare. We built schools dedicated to training military leaders. He paused, letting that sink in. And here is the important part. We did all of this while fighting ourselves. Human against human. We learned to be creative because our opponents were just as smart as we were. Every weapon we developed, they developed a counter. Every tactic we used, they found a way to defeat. So we had to keep innovating, keep adapting, keep learning. Counselor Venrak interrupted. But surely that makes you weak. A divided species cannot stand against a united one. Daniel shook his head. You still do not understand. Yes. We fought each other. But when an outside threat appeared, we stopped fighting and united. The same creativity and determination we used against each other, we can use against anyone who threatens us. You declared war thinking we were divided and weak. You gave us a reason to unite. He changed the display to show human ships. You looked at our technology and saw that it was newer than yours. You thought that meant inferior. But new also means flexible. You have ships designed hundreds of years ago. Beautiful ships. Powerful ships. But ships designed to fight enemies that use the same tactics you do. The display showed the battle, from the human perspective this time. Our ships are designed to fight enemies who think differently. We built them to be adaptable, because we know that the next war will not look like the last war. You built your fleet to be impressive. We built ours to win. Krell Thor stepped forward. Ambassador Harper, we acknowledge our mistake. We underestimated your species. We were wrong to declare war. The Council is prepared to discuss terms for peace. Peace. Daniel repeated the word slowly. Yes. Let us talk about peace. You offered us peace before. Remember? Peace under your rule. Peace where humanity gave up our independence. Peace where we followed your laws and accepted your authority. That was your version of peace. He looked around the chamber at all the different species. How many of you were given the same offer? How many of you joined the Council, not because you wanted to, but because you had no choice? You were conquered, or you surrendered before you could be conquered. The Council calls it unity. We call it tyranny. The chamber erupted in argument. Some species protested that they had joined willingly. Others remained silent, and their silence spoke volumes. Enough, Krell Thor commanded. What are humanity's terms? Daniel straightened. Our terms are simple. The Council will recognize full human sovereignty over all our current territories. You will not attempt to regulate or restrict our expansion. You will open complete diplomatic and trade relations with all human colonies. And most importantly, you will change your charter. Change our charter? Krell Thor's wings flared with surprise. That has never been done. Then you will be making history, Daniel said firmly. The new charter will prohibit forced subjugation of any species. No more conquering weaker civilizations. No more forcing them to join under threat of destruction. Real membership, based on real choice. The argument that followed was intense. Species that had built their power on Council-enforced dominance protested loudly. Others, especially younger civilizations that had been forced to join, listened with obvious interest. You ask us to abandon everything we have built, one counselor shouted. To throw away 1,000 years of tradition. I am asking you to evolve, Daniel replied. To grow beyond the need to dominate others. To build a real alliance based on mutual respect instead of fear. Is that really so terrible? Counselor Thexal spoke thoughtfully. Ambassador, you speak of respect and cooperation, yet your military just destroyed our fleet. How is that different from what you accuse us of doing? Daniel met her eyes. Because we gave you a choice first. We offered peace. You chose war. We defended ourselves and proved we could win. But we did not conquer you. We did not demand your surrender. We are still offering you the same thing we offered before. Partnership equals working together. He gestured at the battle analysis still playing on the displays. Look closely at that battle. Notice something? We could have killed everyone. We could have turned every ship into debris. We had the weapons, the position, the advantage, but we did not. We disabled your ships, crippled your fleet, and let you live. That is the difference between us and you. We fight only as much as necessary to make our point. Krell was quiet for a long moment. You gave us 72 hours to reconsider the war. How long will you give us to consider these terms? 48 hours, Daniel said. After that, if we have not reached an agreement, we will continue with our lessons. Admiral Morrison has prepared 999 more demonstrations. Each one will be more convincing than the last. But I hope we do not need them. I truly do. He began to walk back toward the exit, then paused. One more thing you should understand. Humanity does not want to be the dominant power in the galaxy. We do not want to rule over others. We have seen where that path leads. We just want to live free and explore the stars. We want to trade, share knowledge, and build something better together. But, he added, his voice hardening, we will never be ruled. We will never surrender our freedom. We will never bow to threats. If you want to be our friends, we will be the best friends you ever had. If you want to be our enemies, we will be the worst enemies you can imagine. The choice is entirely yours. As Daniel left the chamber, Counselor Venrak spoke to Krell privately. Do you believe him? That humanity truly wants peace? Krell watched the battle analysis again, focusing on the precision of the human attacks. Look at how they fought. Every shot was calculated. Every move had purpose. They could have caused 10 times the casualties but chose not to. Yes, I believe him. They want peace. But they are also prepared for war in ways we never imagined. What will you recommend to the Council? Venrak asked. I will recommend we accept their terms, Krell said heavily. Because the alternative is learning the other 999 lessons. And I do not think the Council would survive that education. On the human transport ship taking him back to the fleet, Daniel sat alone in his quarters. His assistant, Lieutenant Kevin Walsh, brought him a report from Admiral Morrison. The Admiral says the fleet is ready for Phase 3 if negotiations fail, Kevin said. Daniel rubbed his tired eyes. I hope it does not come to that. War is easy. Peace is hard. But peace is always worth the effort. Do you think they will accept our terms? Kevin asked. Freedom Station hung in space exactly at the border between Council territory and human space. It was a new construction, built in just 30 days, by combined human and Council work crews. The station was not large or fancy, but it was symbolic. It represented the first thing that humans and Council members had built together, instead of fighting over. President Nicole Stewart stood in the main diplomatic hall, looking out at the gathering of beings. Humans and aliens mixed together, some talking quietly, others still keeping cautious distance. It had only been 2 weeks since the Battle of Nexus Point, and trust was still fragile. Beside her stood Admiral Jake Morrison in his formal uniform and Ambassador Daniel Harper in a simple black suit. Around them, representatives from every human colony waited patiently. Across the hall, Supreme Arbitrator Krell led the Council delegation with representatives from all 47 member species. Are you ready for this? Jake asked quietly. Nicole nodded. This is what we fought for. Not victory. This, the chance to stand as equals. The treaty document appeared as a holographic projection in the center of the room. It was called the Galactic Accord, and it was simple enough that anyone could understand it. No forced subjugation, no mandatory membership, real cooperation based on choice, mutual defense for those who wanted it, open trade and diplomacy, and most importantly, the recognition that every species had the right to determine its own future. Daniel had written most of it during long nights aboard his transport ship. He had kept it simple on purpose. Complex treaties had loopholes. Simple agreements had clarity. Krell approached the hologram first. He looked different than he had 2 weeks ago. His crystalline wings still drooped slightly, but there was something else in his posture now. Not defeat. Understanding. Before we sign this treaty, Krell said, his voice carrying through the translation devices, I want to say something. The Council made a grave error. We saw humanity's youth and assumed weakness. We saw your conflicts and assumed chaos. We could not imagine that a species so recently arrived among the stars could challenge us. He paused, looking directly at Nicole. We were wrong. And our mistake cost thousands of lives. Council lives, yes. But lives nonetheless. I apologize for my role in that decision. I apologize for the arrogance that led us to declare war, rather than seek understanding. The hall went silent. In 1,000 years of Council history, no supreme arbitrator had ever apologized to another species. It was unprecedented. Nicole stepped forward. Apology accepted. Arbitrator. But I think we all need to be honest about something. This situation could have been handled better by everyone. We could have been more transparent about our capabilities. You could have been more willing to listen. The war happened because both sides made assumptions. She gestured at the treaty. But that ends today. This agreement is not about who won or who lost. It is about building something better. A galaxy where species work together because they choose to, not because they are forced to. That is worth more than any military victory. Daniel added, The Council asked me once what humanity's true nature is. Are we pragmatic or passionate? The answer is both. We are practical enough to know when fighting serves no purpose, and passionate enough to protect what matters. Today, we choose to be passionate about peace. The signing ceremony began. Each representative added their mark to the holographic document. Some used energy signatures. Others used biopatterns. Humans used simple thumbprints. The method did not matter. The commitment did. As the last signature appeared, something remarkable happened. The alien beings in the hall began making sounds. Some clapped, though they had no hands. Others hummed or vibrated. A few released pleasant scents. Each species had their own way of showing approval, and they all did it at once. Even some of the humans looked surprised. They had expected formality, maybe some reluctant acceptance. They had not expected genuine celebration. After the ceremony, Krell approached Daniel privately. The insectoid being lowered his head slightly. A sign of respect in his culture. Ambassador, may I ask you something personal? Of course, Daniel replied. When you smiled in the council chamber. When we declared war. What were you thinking? Daniel was quiet for a moment, remembering that day. I was thinking that you had no idea what you had just started. I was thinking about all the brilliant military minds in human history. All the strategies and tactics we had developed. All the hard lessons we had learned. And I was thinking that you were about to get a very expensive education. But also, Daniel continued, I was sad. Sad that it had come to this. Sad that we could not simply talk like reasonable beings. Sad that people would die because of pride and assumptions. Krell wings flickered. Your smile did not seem sad. No, Daniel agreed. It was not. Because I also knew that humanity would win. Not because we are stronger or tougher, but because we are more adaptable, more creative, more willing to do whatever it takes. That confidence must have looked like arrogance to you. It terrified me, Krell admitted. When you smiled instead of showing fear, I knew we had made a mistake. I just did not know how big a mistake until the battle was over. On the observation deck, Captain Ryan Torres stood with his wingman Stephanie Morgan, watching Earth rise in the viewport. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from space, beautiful and fragile. Hard to believe that came from down there, Stephanie said, pointing at the planet. All that military capability. All that innovation. Ryan nodded. My instructor at the academy used to say that Earth was humanity's first and best teacher. She taught us that resources are limited, that survival requires intelligence, that conflict is inevitable but extinction is optional. Every lesson we learned fighting each other prepared us for fighting others. Do you think there will be other fights? Stephanie asked. Other species that need to be taught the same lesson? Probably, Ryan said honestly. The galaxy is big. There are always going to be those who mistake kindness for weakness. But now we have allies, species that understand what we are and what we stand for. That makes the next fight easier. Stephanie smiled. If there is a next fight, I am glad I will be flying with you. Same, Ryan replied. Though I am hoping for a long, boring peace first. I could use a vacation. In the command center of Freedom Station, Admiral Jake Morrison reviewed the final deployment orders. The human fleet was standing down to peacetime status. Ships would return to their home bases. Crews would get leave to visit their families. The military would shift from war footing to exploration and defense. Commander Lisa Bennett approached with a datapad. Sir. Final casualty report from the entire campaign. Jake took it, already knowing the numbers but needing to see them official. Human military casualties, 47 injured, 0 killed. Council casualties, 32,000. Mostly from accidents during evacuations and panic, not from human weapons. We could have killed so many more, Lisa said quietly. But we did not, Jake replied. That is what makes us different. That is why this peace will work. The Council learned that we can destroy them but choose not to. That is more powerful than any weapon. What happens now, sir? Lisa asked. Jake set down the pad and looked at the holographic display of local space. Now we do what we came to the stars to do. We explore. We learn. We build. We make friends with species who want to be friends. And we stay ready. Always ready, for the ones who do not. He turned to face his second-in-command. The Council thought war was about domination. We showed them it is about protection. Now we show them that peace is about cooperation. Both lessons are important. In her quarters on Freedom Station, President Stewart recorded a message to be broadcast across all human colonies. My fellow humans, she began. 3 weeks ago, the Galactic Council declared war on us. They saw our independence as a threat. Our refusal to submit as an insult. They believed their numbers and their history made them invincible. Today, we proved them wrong. Not through conquest or cruelty, but through skill and determination. She paused, choosing her words carefully. We won this conflict without losing a single life. That is not because our enemies were weak. It is because our people were brilliant. Our pilots flew with precision. Our strategists thought 3 steps ahead. Our engineers built technology that turned the impossible into reality. And our diplomats turned military victory into lasting peace. But winning the war was the easy part, Stewart continued. Building the peace will be harder. It requires patience, trust, and the willingness to work with former enemies. Some of you may find that difficult. You may want revenge for the threat they posed. You may want to punish them for their arrogance. She leaned forward, her expression serious. I am asking you not to. I am asking you to be better than that. To show the galaxy that humanity fights when necessary, but forgives when possible. To prove that we came to the stars not to dominate but to participate. To demonstrate that our greatest strength is not our weapons but our character. The broadcast ended, but her words spread across human space. Some agreed immediately. Others took more convincing. But slowly, the idea took hold. Humanity had won the war. Now, it was time to win the peace. Back in the diplomatic hall, the celebration continued. Species that had never spoken to each other were sharing stories. Humans were teaching aliens about Earth's history. Aliens were teaching humans about worlds and cultures that existed before humanity even evolved. Daniel stood at the viewport, watching it all with quiet satisfaction. Ambassador Krelthor joined him once again. Your people are natural diplomats, Krelthor observed. They make friends easily. We have to be, Daniel replied. We spent so long fighting each other that we got very good at making peace afterward. You cannot stay angry forever when your enemy today might be your ally tomorrow. So we learned to forgive, to move on, to work together despite differences. The Council could learn from that, Krelthor said. You already are. Daniel pointed out. You are here. You signed the treaty. You are talking to me as an equal instead of a subordinate. That is progress. Krell Thor's wings rippled with what humans had learned was amusement. You make it sound simple. It is simple, Daniel said. Respect others. Honor agreements. Keep your word. Protect the weak. Punish the wicked. These are not complicated concepts. Humans learned them thousands of years ago. We just had to relearn them a few times when we forgot. As the day turned to evening by station time, the various delegations began departing. Ships undocked and headed for their home worlds, carrying news of the treaty and the new era it represented. Admiral Morrison stood on the Valkyrie's bridge as the flagship prepared to return to Earth. His crew worked with relaxed efficiency, the tension of war replaced by the satisfaction of peace. Course laid in for Earth, sir, the navigator reported. Take us home, Jake ordered. As the Valkyrie jumped to faster than light speed, Jake thought about everything that had happened. The Council's declaration, the preparation, the battle, the negotiations, the treaty. It had all happened so fast, yet it had changed everything. Captain Ryan Torres, back in his fighter bay, was cleaning his cockpit when Lieutenant Kevin Walsh found him. Hey Ryan, I heard you are getting a medal. Ryan shrugged. Everyone who flew at Nexus Point is getting medals. We were just doing our jobs. You did more than that, Kevin said. You helped change history. The galaxy will never be the same because of what you did. Ryan thought about that. I hope you are right. I hope this peace lasts. I hope the next generation of pilots never has to do what we did. I hope the next generation of pilots. I hope the next generation of pilots. But if they do, Kevin said, they will know that humanity can face any threat and win. Not just win, Ryan corrected. Win and still be human afterward. That is the important part. We fought without becoming monsters. We won without losing ourselves. That is the real victory. As the human fleet dispersed to their bases and the alien delegations returned to their worlds, Freedom Station remained at the border. A symbol of what had been achieved, a reminder of what was possible when species chose cooperation over conflict. Ambassador Daniel Harper was the last human to leave the station. He took one final look at the treaty hologram, still displayed in the main hall. Think it will work? Asked his aide. It has to, Daniel replied, because the alternative is more war, more death, more waste. The Council learned that they cannot force humanity to submit. Humanity learned that we cannot isolate ourselves from the galaxy. Now we all have to learn how to live together. He turned toward his transport ship. Besides, we gave them the easy way. If they choose the hard way, well, Admiral Morrison has 999 more lessons prepared, but I do not think we will need them. Fear teaches quickly, and we gave them plenty to fear. Now we give them something better. Hope. The transport lifted off, leaving Freedom Station behind. Below, on dozens of council worlds, the news of the treaty sparked debates and discussions. Some species celebrated. Others protested, but everyone understood that the galaxy had changed. The Galactic Council had declared war on humanity, expecting quick submission or easy conquest. Instead, they received a demonstration of what real military capability looked like. They learned that age and size meant nothing against intelligence and determination. They discovered that humanity's answer to threats was not fear or surrender. It was a smile. A smile that promised both friendship and fury, depending on what was needed. A smile that said, "We know something you do not." A smile sharper than any steel. And behind that smile was the will to back it up with action, the skill to win despite the odds, and the wisdom to turn victory into peace. The war was over. The lesson was learned. The galaxy had entered a new era, one where cooperation replaced conquest, and respect replaced domination, and humanity, the young species that had come to the stars, hoping to find their place among the civilizations of the galaxy, had found it, not through submission, but through strength. Not through conquest, but through character. They had shown the galaxy what humans could do when pushed. Now, they would show what humans could build when welcomed. The future was uncertain, as it always was. But for the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy faced that uncertain future with hope instead of fear. And that made all the difference. They will, Daniel said with certainty. Because for the first time in 1,000 years, the Council has met someone who can say no and make it stick. They thought might made right. We showed them that right makes might. Now they have to decide if they want to live in a galaxy where freedom matters or keep trying to enforce their old ways. He looked out the viewport at the stars. I gave them the truth. Humanity will be good neighbors if treated with respect. Terrible enemies if threatened. Most species in the galaxy have never had that choice before. They have always been victims or victors. We are offering them something new. Partnership between equals. Kevin smiled slightly. The Admiral was right about you, sir. You really do believe in this. Of course I do, Daniel said. Because I have seen what humanity can accomplish when we work together. And I have seen what we can do when we fight. I know which future I want for the galaxy. I just hope the Council is smart enough to want it too. Back in the Council chamber, the debate raged on. But slowly, gradually, the voices calling for acceptance grew louder than the voices calling for continued resistance. The Council was learning, and humanity waited patiently to see if the lesson would stick. Point spread across the galaxy at light speed. Every species, every world, every being capable of understanding warfare, heard the same message. Humanity had defeated the Galactic Council's fleet without losing a single ship. The young species from Earth had proven that age and numbers meant nothing against intelligence and determination. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again, and the Council would have to decide if they wanted to learn the easy way or the hard way. Jake Morrison hoped they would choose wisely, but he was ready either way. Humanity always was. I will learn it. Because the alternative is that we keep teaching until they understand. And trust me, they do not want that. He looked at the countdown timer on the main display. 47 hours and 53 minutes until Operation Nightfall began. Until humanity showed the galaxy what happens when you threaten a species that refuses to quit. Everyone get some rest, Jake ordered. In 2 days, we make history. One way or another, the galaxy will never be the same. As the bridge crew rotated out for their rest shifts, Jake stayed behind, staring at the map. Somewhere out there, the Council fleet was gathering. Thousands of ships filled with aliens who believed they had already won. They thought humanity would fold. They thought the threat of overwhelming force would be enough. They were about to learn the most important lesson in human history. Humans do not fold. They fight. And when they fight, they win. He turned and began walking toward the exit. The alien guards looked at Krell Thor, unsure if they should stop the human ambassador. The Supreme Arbitrator said nothing, still trying to process what had just happened. At the doorway, Daniel paused and looked back one final time. 72 hours, Arbitrator. Use them wisely. Because after that, the galaxy learns why Earth's answer to aggression is not fear or surrender. Our answer is a smile and a demonstration. And I promise you, our demonstrations are very thorough. Then he was gone, walking calmly through the massive doors as they closed behind him. The Council chamber erupted into chaos. Some species demanded immediate military action. Others called for emergency meetings. A few of the oldest and wisest Council members sat quietly, their expressions troubled. They had made a terrible mistake, and they were just beginning to realize it. Humanity had not come to the Council to beg. They had come to deliver a warning, and that warning was wrapped in a smile that promised nothing good for those who ignored it. The countdown had begun.